we go. Let's dance, yo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we're back on track, baby. Woo! Morning, everybody. Welcome to podcast 59. Mr. Benson's in the house with us today. You have we've got 59 episodes. Crazy. How many
Grace.
days have we been under lockdown?
We only missed 1 day.
Is it? Oh, we just took the weekends off after that.
But we only took 1 week.
That's it?
That's it.
Yeah.
Why?
It's wrong.
Yeah, it had a technical issue, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And Benson was supposed to be on that one, but it's today.
Today, first of all, before we get started, before I introduce the man to the left, I want to talk about our podcast sponsor. Today it's Home Insulation Manitoba, the ultimate insulation solution for energy-efficient homes and commercial buildings. You should keep this in mind when you guys build a new one. Always installed by a licensed team member. By using spray foam insulation, you're committing to an energy-efficient structure and saving on expensive energy bills. This product is airtight, fireproof, mold, and thermal resistant. It will also lower your energy costs, add structural strength, provides a vapor barrier, and doesn't require replacement, and is effective in basements, attics, floors, and roofs. Call 204-813-9405 to book your free estimate. Let's get into the man sitting to my left here. He's got an amazing story, and we'll get into it, but today's guest has dedicated his life to teaching and educating others. He has a Bachelor of Fine Arts, Bachelor of Education from the May, a postback, yeah, an education counselor. He's worked as an educational assistant, a teacher, and now student services both here and up north. This man, believe it or not, you guys are seeing it on the screen right now, once sat 200 pounds heavier than he is today. 100 of those pounds were lost in a 7-month period, and he has maintained that weight loss for 5 years. That's awesome. His passion is painting and clay sculptures, and according to his fiance, he's a pretty good cook. We'll see what he says about that. He became aware of Fickla when he met Big Mama at the bridal show, where his partner David came in second with the balls. He does at least 10 jump ropes before every workout, and his favorite stretch is a headstand. Everybody, let's welcome Mr. Ryan Benson.
Hold on 1 second. So I don't think the sound is connected directly to the switchboard.
Are you sure?
It sounds like it's coming from that.
Benson, can you sing?
No. Have you heard the tone of my voice? Like,
Well,
this is not
under the rainbow.
Are we back on? Let's try that again.
We're testing it out right now.
Sounding better?
Sounded better?
Hard to tell.
How's the sound, everybody? Can you hear us?
Thumbs up for good sound, thumbs down for bad sound.
There we go. We're good to go, Rick.
Okay. Biggest question I have when I got this intro: 100 pound or 200 pounds. How the hell did you do that? Tell us.
time. Not expecting it to come off quickly.
So, what was a workout regimen like? Were you with us for that whole time?
No.
No,
So, so the first 100 pounds was over a long period of time playing with calorie count and watching what I was eating, not watching what I was eating, the yo-yo dieting.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so it was just basic, some light cardio and watching what I was eating, eliminated artificial sweeteners, eliminated. So I haven't had a pop in probably 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So was pop the issue?
I think
Or
pop,
one of the issues?
I think pop was
contributing?
definitely one of the issues.
Mhm.
Okay.
And
is it like real pop, like Pepsi or Diet Pepsis?
both, but
Okay.
really I think it's the diet because I think it was the artificial sweetener, and
Okay, that's interesting.
like the artificial sweetener is not derived from natural substances.
That's right.
And then so once that was, I kind of lost that first 100.
Can I stop you for 1
yeah.
sec? Do you remember what your heaviest was?
I stopped weighing myself at 325, and I knew I went well over it.
Really? Eh?
Yeah.
Okay. And then something kicked in, and that was it, and you just had to make some changes.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't feeling good. Like at 24, 25, my doctor was doing nothing but testing me for cholesterol, which is like, okay, but I'm young. I want to have pizza and beer and not worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, that's not an option.
Yeah.
So how do we make that an option?
Right.
Um,
How did you let yourself get to that point? Looking at you now, you like a very in shape man. I couldn't even picture how you would let yourself be that big.
It stems from emotional needs not being met. I didn't come out until later in life.
Okay.
And I think subconsciously, now that I've done a lot of psychology training with my counseling degree, reflecting back on it, I think a lot of it was, I'm gay. I don't want to date girls, even though society's telling me I should.
Mhm.
So if I remain what I would say is ugly, I personally don't need to date anyone because that's my excuse.
Interesting. That's the psychology behind it, hey?
That's where I think I was going. It was an emotional depression, constantly eating, and at the same time this underlining thing of, if I feel like I'm ugly, then other people will perceive me as ugly and I won't have to date them.
Huh.
And it alleviated that stress.
Yeah.
So what was that like as a kid? Like, how did the boy girl relationship, got kids talking about, you're 12, like, oh, she's hot or whatever, and how was that growing up for you?
Become the best actor in the world.
Yeah.
And you know what? You start to spin lies and spin stories, and eventually you've said them enough consistently that it's not that you believe them, but no lie detector. Like, I can't imagine lie detector would ever pick up that you were lying. Because you believe it so heartily because it has to be your truth. But like, I mean, I can just like, either of you would be like, hey, yeah, that guy's a good looking guy. Good for him. Oh yeah, she's hot. Like,
Right.
whatever. It's a non-issue.
Yeah. And so you always knew you were gay? That was something like from the time you can remember being sexually attracted to someone?
I remember I'm sure it was around grade 1. I was riding my bike around the lake, at the town site at the beach and at the cabin. And I remember seeing 2 guys and knowing that I was attracted to that and not their girlfriends.
Okay.
That were walking with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I've known probably since that young.
How old were you then?
So like
grade 6.
Grade 1. So I was about 6.
Oh, that's 6.
Yeah.
Interesting. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but like, stuff happens in life, and you perceive things from the media, and you see all these microaggressions, and that they affect you, and when that every year when you're like, okay, that's it, this is the year, this is when I'm gonna do it. Something happens, and someone says something, you're like, and you're deflated.
This is the year that you're going to come out, and then something happens, and you stay back in the closet. You don't come out.
Exactly.
When did you really want to just kind of open up and just say, hey, like, this is who I am? You remember that time, but you didn't do it?
Oh, there were multiple times where I was like, I just need to do it. I need to get it, say it, and then it becomes okay when, unfortunately, it's like, okay, well, when my grandmother passes away, or when this happens, okay, I'm gonna do it when this happens. I'm gonna do it when this happens, and then those times come, and you go, nope, it's not the time. And and when I talk to students too who are coming out or have come out, it's got to be the truth time for them, and it has to feel right. And for me, that didn't happen until I was 30, and a whole bunch of shit went down that kind of forced the issue.
30?
Yeah.
Really? So who are you concerned about the most? The parents, family?
Yeah, what was
close
holding
friends?
you back?
Well, my parents sent me to art school, so I know that they're pretty much open for anything.
Okay.
No, you know what? It really was society. It was looking at the gay influences I had at the time, and looking at the media's portrayal of homosexuals, and being like, okay, this is how I feel. That's not how I feel I am. That's not how I connect.
Yeah. Like, what was the media's portrayal from what's ever sitting in your head right now? Was it was a negative?
It was a negative.
Okay.
And the negative, that stereotypical, ultra flamboyant, feminine, which is now a trait that I feel like I've kind of embodied a little bit. I feel like I'm a little bit more exuberant. I feel that living my truth, I've release some of that toxic masculinity that I like tried so hard to put on.
Mm-hmm.
But but the negativity towards that, it wasn't that was deterrent.
Okay.
It was the negativity towards that portrayal of a stereotypical gay male.
Okay.
That I was like, well, I still like ATVs. I love my truck. Like at the time, I was interested. Like I did have a truck, and I love cars. I'm kind of like a dude's dude.
Yeah.
So it wasn't making sense, and that was partially my own lack of education around it, and the lack of discussion around it. I didn't know that there was more beyond that.
Okay.
And I was having trouble putting the pieces together.
Yeah.
So do you think that in today's society, so let's say in the past 5 years, do you feel that it's more accepting, and do you think that people have less feeling of being discriminated as a whole? In certain areas, obviously, it's still going to be a big problem, but do you think as a whole, with social media, all that kind of stuff, it's a little bit more acceptable?
I think it's gotten better. We've had far more media support from, TV and other media outlets that are far more supportive. There's far more visibility around it. And it's hard for me to really answer that because my friend circle has changed as a result of me coming out and having partners, and I'm more in the circle, so I now see it more, I experience it more, I live it more. So do I feel more comfortable in it? Yes, but so many variables have changed that sometimes the outside skew from that closeted me, like I can't see that anymore. So I think it has gotten better, but we've got a long way to go.
So what's still holding you back, or holding the gay community back? What is still holding it back to putting it out there so it's more normalized, I guess, or more accepted? I'm not sure how you'd word that. What are we lacking?
It's the lack of education and something I always tell my students is, fear comes from hate comes from fear, and fear comes from a lack of education. Same reason why as a kid I wouldn't go get a ball from underneath the car. I didn't know what the mechanics were. I was scared of getting, like ripped to shreds by whatever was under there. And it wasn't until kind of I got under a car with my uncle who did engine repair and kind of saw what was going on, and if it was turned off, there's like it's more skid plate than anything. Okay, well I can go under there. Well, same thing happens with the LGBT community. Same thing happens with, we can talk about stuff going on in the States right now and even in Canada, racial profiling and racism and stuff like that. That all stems from a lack of education. Without proper education and information, people can't change their paradigm to see the good. They get stuck in what they believe in, and that's the only way you're going to get out of it is with proper education and being present there. So, you want to know what it's about? Go to the Pride events when they are back on after all this.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree. Yep.
Don't avoid it.
Do you walk down the street and still look at people and think that person hates me? Like, is that still prevalent, or?
Not so much when I'm by myself. When I'm with David, we have been on trips.
Like if you're holding hands and it's obvious you're a gay couple, do you feel like people are really still judging you?
Yeah, we've been at restaurants and David's come in, given me a kiss, hello, and like the shock and awe of the people sitting around us is still prevalent. We were shopping, we weren't holding hands, we were just walking together, and it was funny because two younger gentlemen came out of the store and we were walking in. And I would say, visually, we weren't that different. But as we kind of cross paths, we could hear them say faggots. And you're like,
really?
Wow, there's nothing distinguishing us as a couple. We're just two guys walking.
Yeah.
You are two guys walking, yet you chose to say that when we could have easily flipped the tables.
Yeah.
And so that's when we really see it. And I've kind of said to David, when that happens again, and this is also a sign of times because it hasn't happened really again that we've heard, But I said, next time that happens, we stop, we pause, we kiss, and flip them the bird.
Yeah.
Period. Full stop. Like,
Yeah.
it's enough.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced discrimination like that?
I got discriminated against by a female doctor one time, and it actually always stuck with me. I went in to get a dermatologist. You get referred, and at the time I was dealing with drugs, so they had asked me, have you taken any drugs or whatever? And I was honest, just in case. I don't know. I was just getting a couple moles removed or something like that. And I walked in there, and the lady immediately said, no, hello, no, nothing like that. She said, this is going to have to be quick. I have a lady who's upset outside, so what do you need done? And this is how she spoke to me, just matter of fact. And usually I'm okay with that kind of communication. But I'd never met this person before. And at the end of the day, you kind of expect your healthcare provider to maybe say hello and, hey, ask a few of the questions. And I said, I'm here to get this and this removed. And she looked I said, I have 4 things to get removed. And she said, we don't have that kind of time. They said, well, this and this. And she said, you can't do anything about it. I said, okay, well, what about this and this? And she said, okay, we'll do this one real quick. And I was in and out of there in, I don't know, maybe 11 minutes. And moving forward since then, I had to go back to my doctor and say, I need another dermatologist, and I only want a male. So because of that experience, I only want to deal with male doctors now. So I feel like I was discriminated against because of maybe my race, or not my race, my gender, and possibly maybe because I put down that I did drugs at the time. So yeah, I felt it before in that particular situation.
It sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So growing up,
How about you?
Yeah, well, growing up, my mom is. You met my mom, right?
Yeah,
So my mom is as white as it gets, right? And she comes from the farm in Nipawa, and they're very segregated, right? And so they're on their own farms, and they only know the 5 people that are around them, kind of thing, right? And so my dad is Filipino, and obviously I look Filipino, right? And I used to spend all my summers there. And it's ever since then, even when I walk into a building full of white people, I still feel like it, in Winnipeg, no problem. But if I go to like Texas or, anywhere where I'm traveling, and if there's no other ethnic people there, I don't know, I just feel that they're just looking at me, right? Because when I was growing up, we would go to restaurants out there and they would think like, who's this? And they didn't know what I was because they didn't know Asians. They just assumed I was an Indian, right? So they're like, who's this Indian boy? And one time I was with my cousin and his friends, because I used to hang out with my cousin all the time. He was 16 at the time. I was probably 6, and they actually, like, the cops took me from him because they thought that they abducted me from a reservation.
Really?
Yeah. So I've always had that innate sense of just, racism. Winnipeg, nothing.
Yeah.
I don't feel that at all. But when I travel to other places or like places in Nipawa that, they're slowly getting into it, I feel that. And it sucks. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's me or just the way that I grow up. I've gotten over it since then, but I still get that feeling.
Yeah. Well, even when I was teaching up north, I was not out. Like in the city, I am out. I am the out teacher in our school. But up north, that was something that I knew if that got out to the community, there were certain students that I was counseling that I would no longer be allowed to counsel. And that might also bring other things. And it was just like this, this general feeling of this is something that has to stay quiet. And because the even though we're working towards education and that common understanding, there are some deep-rooted things, and this is everywhere. This isn't just when I was teaching up north, but there are some deep-rooted thoughts and theories that are family inherited thought processes that are hard to break because they're so instilled within the family dynamic.
That's very true. And in fact, I remember growing up, my grandfather and my older uncles, they still used the N-word back then. Yeah, they did it. That all changed. I mean, it was different times, right? It was different times, and that's just how they spoke, country people. But that certainly has changed now. I mean, society has done a good job in making everybody realize certain things you can't say. But yeah, no doubt, and I grew up the same way thinking, I guess I grew up with, I never want to say that I'm racist as far as like feeling like I hate you because you're a different color. And I would never dismiss you as a human being, but you just, if you hear the words enough times from somebody that you love and respect, it just becomes part of your vocabulary. And I guess those are the kinds of things that you have to stop, saying. And you're right. The best way to not hate anybody different than you? Hang out with somebody different than you. Eat a meal with somebody different than you. Sit at a table and have an actual conversation.
Work out with people.
Anything.
Anything.
And that's that education part. People who aren't willing to have, and like I love when people are like, well, my best friend's you know,
Gay.
gay or black
Yeah.
or Jewish. You know,
Yeah.
gay Jew. Like I see a lot of oppression everywhere, but you know, nothing as horrible as what's going on down south right now. But it's true. Like walk a mile in the shoes, hang out, be present. Don't just deal with this on the superficial level of hi, how are you? Like actually breaking bread and having, if you eat bread, no, but breaking bread and
Low carb bread.
yeah, low carb bread and having that time to see beyond just the cultural superficial surface.
Yeah.
You know, that's where you really get to learn things. Like moving beyond that, like I call it the folklorama bubble. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
this is the part we see, or like
Yeah.
a lot of
That's good.
That's
Yeah.
so true.
a lot of, but like you know, a lot of educators use the iceberg model where the part above the surface of the water is just a small fraction of the larger
Right.
part, and you don't get to see what's in someone's true culture heritage unless you really spend time and involve yourself in their lives. I can have a friend who's whatever, all I want. Great. If I'm only saying hi, how are you to them on a superficial level, I'm never going to learn why certain cultural aspects are the way they are.
So let me ask you this. You know how yesterday or the day before everybody posted black squares in their Instagram? Do you find that to be effective? Would you say that you're actually supporting the cause, or are you just doing that to make yourself feel better? Like, how would you solve this problem of racism? In my opinion, putting a black square up, I guess it's nice because everybody else is doing it. I just don't feel like it solved any problems. What do you think about that? Or if I go and hang out at the Pride Parade, does that make me gay friendly, or am I just hanging out at the Pride Parade? Like, you know what I mean? How do you really insert yourself into somebody's life so that you understand?
I think for all intents, well, for the purpose of what was going on with the Blackout Tuesday, I think that it was really important to have that visual cue that something bigger is going on. It's so easy to get riled up in the negative media and be like, oh, well, they shouldn't be looting, and all those kind of negative comments of, no, it's enough is enough, and if they're not being heard, it escalates. Everything worth fighting for in history has gotten better only as a result of a riot and protest, or protest and riots. You know, it's so hard to verbalize what your internal emotions are as an oppressed person when you are still continually not being heard with nice words. It's really shitty when you have to, resort to unkind words and amplified situations just to feel like you're being heard. And that's where, as kind of North American whites, we need to amplify. We kind of need to check our privilege and use our privilege to amplify. And that's what they're all saying, is we got to use that privilege to amplify what their message is. We need to use what is causing the oppression to rise above it. And I think until you kind of check that privilege and decide that you're going to use it for the good, you're always on the wrong side. Like you said, going to the pride parade and just standing there, is that enough? No, but you're there, so that's a start.
Something.
So now it is, you have that privilege. Why aren't you holding that flag? Why aren't you being like, I know that guy and I love him? Like, all that positive energy that you can go, or even feeling confident as, and I'm going to pick on you, Rick, but as a straight white male.
In his 40s. Put that in there.
Yeah.
That's important.
if there's someone there who is protesting the Pride Parade and you are there,
Mm-hmm.
it is kind of your responsibility, if you really want to be an ally, to go and be like, as a straight white male in my 40s, I am telling you, you are wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that you are educated enough
Mm-hmm.
to combat their battles.
And do you think that that's an effective way of battling? Because I'll tell you this: if somebody says, regardless of whatever we're talking about, somebody says, "Let me educate you. Let me tell you why you're stupid," or
Yeah.
basically however you word it.
Yeah.
When somebody opens the argument with that, someone like me is just going to shut down. Whatever you have to say after that, I don't give
Yeah.
a shit. You know what I mean? Like, you can't forcing people to learn, or forcing people a message down their throat. I don't know if it's that necessarily an effective way of doing it. I personally feel like it's your actions, right? As a white older guy, people always just assume that I'm a racist, right? That's just how the world has sort of dictated us now at this point. But what I always try to do is just live the life. Like, look around me. Who do I hang around with, right? Who am I eating lunches with? Where am I spending the time with? And I hope that people see that as me, as the true me, as opposed to maybe the things that or how I look, right? Or what society says, the stereotype that I am. But I know it's funny how, like you even said, I'm going to pick on you, Rick, because I'm the easiest target right now, right? But I guess that's what I'm questioning is if that's the way somebody approached me with a message, I wouldn't listen. So there's got to be a different way. You know what I mean?
Well, I think everybody does what they can do, and I agree with you. You and I, we have a voice, right?
Mhm.
We put it on the podcast. We speak very transparent. We're talking about a big matter right now. We spoke about coronavirus and all that. But I think for some people, if you making a black square is your way of supporting it, and you actually like are supporting it, and that's the most you can do, because not everybody's like us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we talk.
Yeah.
Right. I know people. Nary would never make a post like that.
Yeah.
But she supports anything that's for the good. But she's not going to make a black square post. You won't see it. It's not because she doesn't care.
Mhm.
But if Nary were to make that, that would be the next big step for us. A big step would be us getting on a podcast and speaking in front of 1,000 people and voicing how we feel about that situation. So I think that you have to have good intentions behind what you're doing, and I think that you doing nothing is a way of you, like, that's doing something as well. And some people just live it. Like, Nary just lives a great life. She has no racist bone in her body. That'd be interesting if I've ever heard a racist or a negative word come out of her mouth. And so for her, just living her life, I think, is her action. But for some people, just to make a small square post, if you believe in what you're doing, then do it. But if you're doing it because you want to do it because everybody else is doing it, then I think that you have a problem. And then there's people that are taking it to the next level. Because you didn't post a black square, now you're a bad person. Because I've seen people.
Yeah, so how do you feel about that? It's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Like,
Well,
would you agree with
I
that?
didn't post a black square. What
Yeah.
I posted is talking about changing our biases and changing our paradigms and being open and willing to talk about it.
Yeah.
Would I say that I'm a woke person? Like, I'm not, but I'm an othered person who can sympathize. I would like to be there to have that conversation. I think, and that's kind of, Rick, you were saying, how do you change that? I think it's changing it to I statements and going, I am not sure I understand, your perspective. Help me to understand that. And then once you engage in that kind of conversation of being empathetic and hearing what that other side wants to hear, then that gives you an opportunity to go, okay, but why?
Yeah.
Okay, and how? Okay, show me.
So instead of just saying
That's one of the
things-
hardest things to do, is ask for clarification.
Yeah.
A lot of times I message this guy, need clarification.
And that's the other thing too, is people can't have conversations because you don't want to offend the other person, so
Yeah.
you just keep things vanilla and you don't know. It's just like I asked you, can I just call you a gay man instead of the LGBTQ
Yeah,
man, right?
I
But
get it.
and I was truly thinking to myself, I'm like, man, I don't want to offend this guy, but I'm trying to do your intro and say things that I can actually get out,
Well, and I get all the time, they're like, so Benson, you're Jewish. I'm like, yes, I'm a Jew. Like, that's not a bad thing. Now, if you were gonna call me, like, be like, you're a blank and Jew, I'm like, okay, see, you're taking that word and making it a negative.
Yeah.
But
But I will tell you,
But that's what I am.
I will tell you this. I mean, I was watching the thing yesterday on Instagram. There's 3 white girls. They were cleaning a building from graffiti, and a black girl in the back was like, "What are you guys doing? Why are you taking the Black Lives Matter graffiti down?" And they're like, "Well, we're just trying to clean the building. It's an institution." You know, like they weren't being aggressive. They weren't even paying attention. And at the end of it, she was like, "Way to use your white privilege to go against the Black Lives Matter." And I just like, you know, at what point are you taking it a little too far? You know what I mean? Like that. So that's the fear that a lot of people have is they don't even know what to say anymore. You know what I mean? Because some people are just so overly sensitive. Having a conversation with a rational person like yourself, you can get ahead. You can have conversations. But again, like you're saying, the media. The media will take the lunatics on the left, the lunatics on the right, and say that this is the norm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what the problem
And
is.
I think that's what it is that those top 10% of the people that are irrational, whether the subject is about black and white or whether the subject is about fitness or whatever the subject is, they're always going to take it to the next level.
Always.
They're going to see that little red ticker that's showing that there's 7 deaths. And instead of it being like, wow, we got 7 deaths. Do you see that red number?
Yeah.
That's 7 deaths.
Yeah.
And then they put them, because they speak so loudly, and they're the squeaky wheel. And often the squeaky wheel gets greased. So they're the ones with the microphones. They're the one making the most noise. But they don't represent everybody.
Yeah.
I think in any situation,
A
you're
very
always
small
going to have,
portion.
and just like you said, you're not as flamboyant and, super out there kind of whatever that the stereotypical is. But there are people out there that are like that. But
Absolutely.
they don't speak for every gay person in the world.
Right. And I think, and it's funny. So like with these 3 girls, part of it is reading the room and understanding that maybe this wasn't the right time to start cleaning up the building. Like obviously there's still stuff going on where that graffiti needs to stay up. And that's one of those things is how quickly can we get rid of it so we can get rid of the situation, which is a scary thought because we don't want to get rid of this situation right now because not enough action at the political level has been taken.
Okay. Never looked at it that way, but okay.
But you also got to look at it from the other perspective. Those 3 girls could be employees, and the employer's like, man, they just ruined my entire business outside.
Yeah.
Everything seems he's not sending them out there while there's a riot happening. He sent them maybe it could have been weeks. All that stuff could have been up
it was
there.
after the fact, and it was the day after,
So
and
it's
it
like
was
why
during
not
the day. The
why
riots
not
were
clean
done.
up a mess? Like, am I supposed to leave somebody's garbage at my front door because stuff is still going on? No, I need to move that stuff out of here so I can reactivate whatever is going on in my life.
Yeah.
Well, and this is just it. There's so many variables and so many.
I think we all have to come with compromising and understanding and ask the question, what's up?
Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah.
That's you want to know one thing to ask?
Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah. And don't immediately bark at them and call them
Yeah.
down because they're doing something that isn't intentionally trying to make you feel bad or go against your cause. You know what I mean? Yeah. At the end of the day, and I can tell you this: I just got my building tagged. I'm livid. I'm livid about this. I don't give a shit what your cause is. You can't figure something else out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So of course I'm getting out there and I have to now fix it or take find somebody to do it. But it certainly doesn't mean that that don't care about whatever just happened. You know what I mean? So I feel like both sides need to be said, but that's the problem is that you have the media just forcing it, right?
Yeah.
And then that's where hate comes from.
Yeah.
That's
And
where
then-
hate comes
And
from,
again,
right there.
but like I said, you got to stop and
Yeah.
stop, take a second, assess the situation. What is going on that they're cleaning up? And like you said, it was like an institution building,
Yep.
whatever that institution looks like. So, they wanted to make it welcome to everyone. There's other ways to to post and to host different things that building might be able to clean up. And this is just, again, a perspective and paradigm
Sure.
shift based on conversation is,
Yeah.
like if your building is being tagged and it's a prime property there and it's something you stand for, you take down the graffiti and put up signs in the window of support. That graffiti is not going to happen unless you don't support it and you're washing it. Like there's just so many variables. And this is the problem with the media too, is you're not doing the backup and the research behind the story. You're just seeing these small clippets of what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's just it. It leads to education, having proper conversations and educated conversations. And also on your social media, going beyond what you see to fact check and not just take everything at face value.
Yeah. You think we can ever, knowing the amount of social media now, the amount of messages that we can get out there, the amount of awareness that truly is, in fact, you have, corporations that are supporting, like, let's say, being gay, for example, everybody had the rainbow around their logo for Pride, right? Or they did last year, anyways. I'm not sure. Do you think all of this that's happening is ever going to change? Are we moving in the right direction?
Well, we're moving in a direction. I think anything when it hits the fan as high as it's hit, change is inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
There will be some negative,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it'll be more positive. Like I think of the Stonewall riots. That really made leaps and bounds because it gave a reference point for change.
Refresh my memory. Stonewall riots.
Stonewall, so the Stonewall bar in New York, where they were raided, and at the time, police were doing a lot of raids, and it was illegal to be gay, so they were arresting.
Okay.
And,
When was this? Like years and years and years ago?
Yeah. Like
Okay.
early 70s.
Yeah.
Don't quote me.
Okay. Understood.
But that that sparked
69.
change. There you go.
69.
June 28, 1969.
So that sparked a lot of change, and and the funny thing about that is that the people who were fighting that were the most visible parts of the LGBT community. So those were trans of different different ethnicities. Those were the drag queens. Those were the leather bikers. Those were the people who fought the hardest were the ones who were most visibly out there.
Okay.
And and that's kind of one of those funny things is the people who are the loudest and most vocal tend to be the ones making the greatest changes. Because let me tell you, the gay white business guy who's keeping a low profile isn't making change.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
Would you look down upon him for doing that?
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. But
Everybody
at
has
the
their
same
own
time,
reasons, right?
everyone has their own reasons.
Yeah.
But this is again my own personal. Everyone has their own reasons. But there definitely was probably more that he could have been doing.
Yeah. Fair enough. Good questions.
But different day and age, different times. Like I said, like as I came out and as I moved on with my profession, I've gotten more and more out, more and more louder.
Yeah.
I've gotten better education because even though I'm living my truth, I need to educate myself on others, so that I can speak to them as othered individuals and make sure that I can do it justice to ensure that I am their biggest ally and supporter while also being part of their oppressed culture.
Right.
So the key is just to stand for whatever it is that you believe in, and
speak with conviction.
Speak with conviction.
You're very good because you articulate your words well, right? So everything that you're saying resonates with me. So you've made two good points that I've seen now from a different perspective, based on what you said. But when I see that on social media, I immediately say, screw that. I don't give a shit about their opinion because it's forced down my throat and it's done in a bad way, disrespect, tagging, you know what I mean? So that's that would be my side or the way that I look at it. But, having you say in a calm way, yeah, I get it. Okay, timing. Maybe wait a few days before you take the graffiti down. That actually makes sense,
So how did it feel coming into Fit Club? Because we've got like women, we've got men, we've got 40s, 30s, 50s. Like, what was your kind of first impressions coming into Fit Club?
So my first impressions were actually pretty solid. I mean, I had the luxury, David kind of sourced it out first. And so we came in together the first few times and, and it was very good. It was a great experience, but it's funny because you can always kind of tell, like there were a few times where I was like, okay, I'm feeling a little bit more aware of what's going on because I'm hearing a bit of toxic masculinity coming from different areas. But, and that's where I think sometimes we've had really great workouts and because we're throwing things back at each other. But it comes out of a place of caring and I never felt out of place coming in coming into this space.
Can
Like
you-
I've never felt judged.
Can you elaborate on that toxic masculinity? Give me an example of what that means. Specific to that day, like is it because like I know, and I'm not thinking.
Was it
shit,
Rick?
It was probably me.
Was it me?
Because
Yeah, I don't know.
the way that we talk to each other,
Yeah.
like I would just talk to you the way I talk to RJ
Yeah.
because you're a dude, right?
Yeah.
And it can be, I mean, the way that we show love is basically by insulting each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the way how I always show anybody. Or I'll give you a nickname, or I'll pick on you for something or whatever. So is that what you mean?
Yeah, well,
What do you mean?
yeah, a little bit of that, and
Okay.
you know, sometimes talking about just talking about outward outward appearances, and you know, the idea of like, you know, it wasn't said quite like this, so I'm gonna butcher it, but like
Okay.
kind of like lift it like a man, and I was just like,
Mhm.
okay, there's like, I'm like one of the only males like working out here,
Yeah.
lift it like a man.
I think I say
Like,
that to Jen all the time.
yeah, and then like I'm like, so there's a lot of women in here who can take you guys out right now.
Yeah, oh yeah, big time. Big time.
But like, it's not done out of, like I said, it's because we're all sparring
Yeah.
with each other.
Yeah.
Even, and like I think of like Heather swearing all the time at you guys and just
Mhm.
giving it right back, and like
Mhm.
you just know that there is that balance there, but
Mhm.
it's those moments you're like, where like I'm doing, you know, my 100 jumping jacks before the workout starts,
Mhm.
and then you hear something, you're like, I'm just gonna let that go.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna continue on. It is what it is. I'll get them back later.
Yeah. So you do understand that the ball busting comes from a place,
Oh, yeah.
a good place,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we're certified ball busters. We don't know any way to do it, and when we get the mic on, we black out. There's no brain cells connecting.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's just
You have to
we talk
filter it yourself.
Yeah, and there's I'll say the
Exactly.
stupidest things.
Yeah.
And
But it's all trying to gain rapport, right? So
Yeah,
at the
it
end of the
is.
day, I mean, unless you hang a sign around your neck that says, "Here's 15 things you can't say to me," how the hell do I know at first? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly.
I don't want to make any assumptions about you. So,
mhm.
you know, and that's another thing too is I would hate to put myself in a position, or hate to have people around me not be authentic because they're
Yeah.
worried about something. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
I would rather take a few shots
Yeah.
and filter it out that way moving
Yeah.
forward, because then you're real. You know what I mean?
And then you know how far the line is.
Yeah.
I often like find the line, step over it a little
Sure.
bit. All right, I actually did this last week. I said, okay, we haven't seen each other in a while. Usually we crack up jokes when we see each other, but
Yeah.
now we haven't seen each other in 2 weeks. I get it. I'm sorry. I apologize. I crossed the line.
Yeah.
But you know, prior to this, it was all good.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I actually signed David up. So Jen was getting some stuff done, right?
Okay.
At the time, so I was doing all the meetings, and so David was signing up, and he's like, I got to talk to my partner. I said, oh yeah, your wife's gonna love it, and he's like, and then I was like, wait,
Yeah.
I was like, partner, cool. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, and then he got back to me and he signed up.
So how do you feel when somebody says that? Somebody hit me and says, so, you know, when are you and your wife getting married?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
it.
do you get that?
What happens now?
So
How-
actually, oddly enough, at the wedding show, and this is nothing against all the lovely people who ran booths at that show. Oh my gosh, I feel so bad that I laced into the one at the end. But you know, they're just so in the rhythm
Mhm.
of like the heterosexual couple that
Oh, yeah.
they're not censoring. They're just in the rhythm.
Yeah.
They're saying the same thing to everyone.
Yeah.
It's their spiel. They've got it. They're not. It started with at the front door when they were like, "Do you want this lanyard, pink bride?" I'm like, "No, I'm good." But David would go to a vendor, and they'd be like, "So where's the bride?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Same-sex couple." And then we go somewhere else. And actually, it was funny because, and this is how we know that they were just in a rhythm of asking, "Where's the bride?" or "Where's the groom?"
Mhm.
Is we went to one of the ones where the people working actually knew David.
Mhm.
They've met me before. They handed David something and they went, "And where's the bride?" And he was just like, same sex couple.
Yeah.
Or-
Yeah,
You already
there's-
know
there's
this.
no bride.
Yeah.
We're friends on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, they're just like, "Yeah, it's been a long day and we just."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this
Yeah.
from working. So we've done it 2 years in a row at the wedding show. And our booth, if you come to ours, is completely different than everybody else's. Everybody's standing there with their clipboards just like this, right? Like so nervous,
rigid.
so up tense, saying the same boring spiel.
Yeah.
And I will, you know how I am. I'll walk around. Hey, what's up, man? And they're like, oh man, they give me their numbers and they want to
Yeah.
do business with us, and it's like a completely different shock. So when they sit there, I don't know, man. There's just something about a trade show. They get nervous. You know what I mean? They don't know what to do. They don't know what to say. So when you go to those things, you're going to get the very vanilla statement because that's what they're trained to do.
Yeah.
Even if you get the owner's like so struck by that many people.
Yeah. So so for the most part, every time you got asked that question, were you and David together?
Pretty much.
So they saw it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you solve it then? Like, I can see why they would.
Yeah.
I can, I can't fault them for that.
Like,
But
it was literally like the same-sex couple.
Yeah.
Actually. Oh. And like for some of the vendors were like, they didn't even quite know what to do with that information. And some were just like, oh yeah, well we do this, and last week we actually did a a gay wedding, and or we did a lesbian wedding, and this is what it looked like, and so we're totally cool with it. And like they just like immediately drop into, oh yeah, we're cool with it, we've done it.
So how do you feel about that when they pander to you a little bit? Does it offend you, or is it like perfect?
No, they're pandering to all the brides. They better pander to me.
Got it. Perfect.
So let me ask you this. Can you look at a guy and do you ever think about how gay he is? Like, do you look at even straight men and could they potentially, do you see that? Like from a scale of 1 to 10, this guy's probably a 2.
How's your gaydar?
Yeah, gaydar. I guess that's the right word. Yes. How's your gaydar?
I think my gaydar is pretty good, but I think in humanity in general, and in sexuality, it's 100% a scale, and that scale is not a linear scale. It is an abstract concept that can't even be described of where you land, and every man, woman, non-gender conforming, non-binary person somewhere lands on that and has certain levels of heteronormativeness, homosexuality, and to deny that is where I think a large falsity happens. Everyone lands on that scale somewhere. Because without it, you wouldn't be attracted to your bros as friends. You wouldn't be attracted to your girlfriend circle, because even within that, there is something about personalities and stuff that goes beyond gender that is attractive. So that throws you into a different part of the spectrum of how you connect. I just happen to have a lot of female friends. My best friends circles are all females, but I know a couple gay men who I would say are very similar on that spectrum as me, and they have far more male friends. But so something somewhere on that scale is a little bit adjusted where that direction is pulled from. And so if that's two gay guys that have very different friend groups based on obvious interests and connections, then two heterosexual guys obviously have two different places on there as well, and that scope of things.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, there's truth to that. I feel like most relationships, regardless of business, personal, could be just a person that you see passing by, maybe you get your subway from. There's always a level of attraction to men and women. I agree with that. Would you, if with that attraction, if put into a position, would you act on it sexually? Possibly. You know what I mean? Is that what you mean?
Well, that's a difference.
Yeah.
Like, that's a different scale altogether, is the sexual attraction, and that too is a giant spectrum of things. It's slightly more linear because it waves in between things, but like there's pansexual where you're attracted to the being, not the outward flesh.
Okay.
There is bisexual, where male, female, it's both.
Mm-hmm.
And then within pansexual and bisexual, there are those who kind of sway between the two. They might have more preference. They might have, there's more draw, or there isn't. Within all this, there's just no direct way or concrete linear way of sticking
Mm-hmm.
that.
Do you think by putting so many labels on everything that it's helping or hindering the way people perceive those types of people? Like, can you just be straight or gay and then maybe you dabble? Or do you have to have a label for everything?
Yeah.
Because it gets frustrating, and this is where a lot of people just get annoyed. It's like, screw it, enough. I can't remember the 85 genders or whatever that people always complain about.
Yeah.
So do you think it helps that we've done this?
I think it helps in creating identity.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is important as human beings to have a solid identity of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's difficult to do that without a label.
Mm-hmm.
And as human nature, we love labels.
Yes,
we love
agreed.
sticking labels on absolutely everything. So part of that is, as for self-identity, it needs a label.
Okay.
A lot of people appreciate being able to be identified and be part of something based on that label.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are those who are like, just enough with the labels, just be who you are.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a different type of open mindset that a lot of people struggle with.
Okay.
So the labels, I think it's both ways. They
Yeah.
hinder and they bring
Right.
some positivity to it.
Okay. Maybe.
I think that's even here at the gym is people will label Fit Club as either boot camp, which I feel like we have boot camp stuff that we do. But when I think of boot camp, I think of outdoors. I think of, grass, that kind of stuff. Like that's your boot camp. Or if you want to get hardcore, then you're actually in military boot camp. And then people will classify us as CrossFit. And I'm like, well, no, CrossFit has their own CrossFit name. So for us, it's hard to put a label on what we do here. If anybody were asked, it's like, well, what is it that you do? Well, we're lifestyle, right? Like that's why I asked you, what was your comfort level when you came in here? Because this is like not the place to click up. I'm not a big fan of clicks. And if I feel like there's become a click within the community, then I have an issue with that. It's like, if you guys are clicking up, that's fine, but don't you dare try and like push the other people aside because they're not in your cool crowd.
Yeah. Big time.
Because I'm not in that crowd then.
Yeah.
And you and I are not seeing eye to eye.
Yeah, and here, I'd say there's large groups where it's just people where you prefer to work out with because you know you're going to get pushed a certain way or you're going to work out. But at the same time, when we're getting numbered off and you need to balance it because, that entire group is at a point where they're all going to be using the 30-pound dumbbells.
Right.
It's like, okay, we got to split you up because only one of you can be in that group because we have only one set of 30s.
Yeah.
So,
Got it.
but I don't feel like anyone's like, no, we have to be together.
Yeah.
Like, unless it's like a couple bringing someone new in who you don't want to separate, which is understandable.
Yeah.
But I think any of the groups are, we stand together because we kind of want to be our little workout group and we like it. But if we need to bring someone else in or move someone else out, I haven't ever been in a group where you've been like, like, I haven't seen a group where they're like, no, we have to be together. No switching us at all. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's for the benefit of the space.
Yeah.
Like,
They might resist for
So
a
maybe you can
second.
help me out with that. What would you label this as? Like when people ask you, hey, where do you go? And you're like, Fit Club. And it's like, well, what do they do? What do you say?
That's a good question.
Hit? Yeah, I guess hit. That's
90% of it is that.
is hit.
You know?
Yeah.
I would think so.
it's hit. Like
Yeah.
if you struggle to get cardio in, or if you're scared of weights, this is very accessible because I know going into other gyms where like I'll avoid the weights and just use the machines that are easy to understand. Like I don't know what variations of bicep curls to do.
Yeah. That's a good
Come
point.
on, I'm not a trainer. That's not where my expertise is. I'm not a gym teacher. Like I haven't done kinesiology or any training around that. So I don't know what the variations are, or what the body movements are. Like I don't know, shoulders in, shoulders back, elbows in, elbows out. Like there are so many it's to go at it alone, it's a little scary. This gives the accessibility to the weights while doing the cardio, which everyone is comfortable with.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. And I always say that to people. They're like, well, I'm going to get a gym membership to start working out.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Yeah.
What does the first day look like? What
Yeah.
are you working out? What
I
muscle?
can tell you what it is. They walk in, they go on the
Cardio.
treadmill. They walk on the treadmill and they go on their phone because they don't want to look at anybody. And then they go right to a machine and then they look at the machine. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I would even say that most of them don't even do that.
Yeah.
They just go to the treadmill.
I think it's a good start, but I mean, if you really want to make this a part of your lifestyle, which I say there's always 4 elements. There's fitness, finances, faith, and family, right? And if fitness is a major part of your life, I mean, if you're not fit, you're unhealthy, you're dying.
Yep.
So if you're not putting fitness up there with priorities as you would with your family, with your faith, and your finances, then you're already failing in life. And as such, you need to invest and you need to hire the pros,
Yep,
right?
you
And
got
that's
it.
just the way it goes.
Yeah.
And you, if you do that, you're going to have a better experience, I think.
Oh, totally. And I think, so like when I was losing the weight, if this is a good transition point for that. So when I was losing the weight, I was teaching up north. There was no gym. I had a full body workout and I had my jump rope, my trusty jump rope, a yoga mat, 20-pound weights, and a flight of stairs. And I lost 100 pounds in 7 months with just that.
Oh, you did 100 pounds just doing that? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you don't need much, and that's why even here
Yeah.
in the first 2 weeks, we're just going body weight. Like it's a smooth transition. We don't need
Just
to
get sweating
we
again.
don't need to bring out the equipment, and people are eager to start using equipment. And I'm like, no, let's just transition everybody back. Let's get everybody conditioned. Let's get everybody back into a routine. Let's get everybody back to being, even if it's 6 feet apart. That's all you need to start.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you don't need to get super creative and do crazy things right away. Like just ease into it.
Ease into it. And, and the other thing about that is the transition time right now and the way things are slowly opening up to have weights and to clean in that 15-minute buffer zone and to really clean the weights fairly. Like I look at the weights that I have at home, which are similar to the hex weights we have here, and to really and like I use chalk at home, to get the chalk out of the numbers. That's a really good indication of how much cleaning needs to happen because to get into those corners after I've sweated in it and you can see where the chalk is landed.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way in 15 minutes you're cleaning all those weights as well as those need to be
Well,
done.
even a rough surface.
Yeah.
There's all the little indents in there. How are you cleaning every little micro indent? It's going to be
But
tough.
I think this spray that we have, it's just dead on contact. So you just got to really, that's what we've been told. It's just you spray the surface and you just let it sit for a couple minutes. And
there's certainly ways to do it, but as long as you're vigilant in doing the whole thing and it's not just a quick, what I mean? So everybody has to.
But and at the same time, we've been out of the space and not working those muscle groups. And when you're at home, would you do as much at home as you did on the blue when the person beside you is, the person beside you is a machine and is pushing out 50 push-ups in 30 seconds? You're definitely doing more than you are sitting at home in front of the TV. You might get 10 in 30 seconds, whereas if you're doing it with them, you might get 15, 20. So, and so that slow progression is good. It's important.
How many handstands have you done at home?
Handstands?
Or headstands? Headstands.
Handstands I do all the time.
Oh, do you?
I feel like it just aligns my spine and
when did you realize you could do that? You probably couldn't do it when you were 300 pounds.
No, so that was one of those little fun things that as I got closer to losing the weight, I was like, hey, I bet you I could do this now. And so I just kept trying and teddy bear stand because all of a sudden, my knees will actually touch my elbows because I don't have a
yeah.
And so that was just something that I naturally progressed to, and I still work towards a handstand without a wall, but there are things with my body type that I know are always going to be a struggle, and that without actually going to like hardcore concentrated compound lifting, I'm not going to achieve that kind of muscle gain
Yeah.
just based on my body type, because my body type is I eat some extra calories, I gain fat, not muscle, regardless. So, I have to stick to a low calorie diet.
Yeah.
And to lean out, it takes a lot of effort. And even though I do a ton of weights and I've upped my weights and I do have muscle gain, the minute I start eating more, which would be bulking, the bulking happens in the wrong direction.
Mhm.
It doesn't go to my muscles, it goes to my stomach.
Yeah.
So for me, I need to keep up with the cardio. The cardio eats the muscle, but then I add the muscle in. So right now it's just about maintaining my BMI while maintaining muscle. And it's all about muscle maintenance. And, if I gain muscle, amazing, but I just don't want to lose it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, two things maybe we could end with this. Let's start with fitness. So everybody is now going to be integrated back into the gym. I've already seen a couple guys posting selfies. Zach Bailey, thank you. Love your selfies. And what would you tell somebody like just getting back into the groove of things? People that I'm talking about, members. So
Yeah.
the members. What are some maybe words that you would tell them?
I think the first thing is patience. Have patience with the way everything's working. We want everyone to be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Foremost, and that's one of those things where we see everything opening and like the patio's open and there's like 50 people on the patio. It's like, okay, have patience and maybe like not all go to the patio just because it's open. Like, yes, the businesses need your support.
Yeah.
Find ways to do that, but have patience because we can't get everyone in here.
That's true.
And I think
thank you for that. Actually,
yeah, and I think
taking heat over that the past couple days.
Mm-hmm.
and I think
You
it's,
knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
yeah.
I wish they would voice their opinion in the groups, to be honest with you, some of these people. You know what I mean? Like, I paid for premium and I want unlimited sessions. It's like, then take it, I said. This is exactly what I said to somebody. I was like, you know what? Have it. Come in as much as you want. Stick around. Do doubles. I said, that's fine. We just asked people if they can, let's see how the first week goes. We've been closed for 12 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, let's just see how the first week goes. But if you want to monopolize the session, hands off.
It's
Yeah.
unprecedented times, so things are never going to jump right back into
No,
it.
you can't.
And even the workouts that you offered, it's not going to be the same right off the hop because certain things have to fall into place.
Mm-hmm.
But I think planning your workout based on that you're going to get your time here and that that you're going to have to do more. Recognizing that the times might not fit your schedule the same way. Like my schedule has completely changed because of the way work is. And to be honest, I unfortunately haven't been working out following Fit Club because for me, that screen time, my workout is the time to be away from the screen.
Mm-hmm.
My TV watching time to relax at the end of the evening has gone down because I just don't want to be in front of the screen. My cell phone data plan, I've used nothing. Anything that I've used has been from streaming music while I've been on runs.
That's good. That's great.
So everything has changed. So we have to understand that there has to be some planning around that and planning around our schedule to make sure that we get fitness time in somewhere else. And I know it's hard at home with kids and with whatever else is going, but there's lots you can do to engage them and engage in other activities when you're not going to get a double or a triple in here.
And I'll tell you this, Jet, he's like, I'm strong like you, Daddy, right? I want to be strong and he says that. And so where is he seeing that? Well, he sees us doing the workouts. There's times you'll do the live and he'll come in and he'll do his yoga poses and he'll do push-ups and stuff like that. And so, if you're looking at your kids as being a distraction while you're at home and you're avoiding the home workouts because your kids are around you, your dog's around you, whatever, you got to remember that this is the critical time when you're an influencer. And so if you want to be a great influence and you want to preach health and you want to preach that your kids should be playing outside and kids don't play anymore, you need to show them that you're the leader.
Go play. Do
that workout at home. Doesn't matter the circumstances. Kids don't want to go outside. Why would you want to go outside? Unless you have a great connection. But I have my TV screen, I have my video games, I have my food here, my mom's there. Why would I want to leave?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But now you're inspiring that kid by your actions and just consistently doing that. And that's going to stem. We said, you got to live the life. You live the life. Your actions speak your words. So it's the exact same thing with the home workouts.
Why don't we end the podcast on that right
Yeah.
there? Those are very profound words, guys. Crazy times going on in the world today. Be kind, be nice to everybody. Benson, thank you for coming in today. We're going to call it a day. We didn't even get to your art, but we'll do it on the next podcast.
Yeah.
That's okay. It was a good conversation when we didn't even get to have the questions
Yeah.
that I had here.
Jeez.